and welcome to this new video for my channel, The Mental Traveler. I'm Caro Herrera and today I'm going to be reviewing Falls the Shadow. It was written by Sharon Kay Penman and published in 1988, and it's the second book in the Welsh Princes trilogy. Last week I reviewed the first book, Here Be Dragons, and next week I'm going to be reviewing the last one, The Reckoning. Before I begin though, let me just say that this will be a video with spoilers, so if you haven't read Falls the Shadow, beware. Oh, and also because this is the second book in a trilogy, I'd advise you to be familiarized with the first book at least, so that you're not surprised with some of the stuff that I'm going to be mentioning here. Although, since it's all based in history, it's not really that much of a spoiler. This is the second book in the trilogy, as I mentioned, so it starts by catching up with the people we met in the first novel. We get to find out what happens to Llewellyn and Joanna and to their family, as well as what happens to Wales throughout the rest of the 13th century. But in truth, this is a story of 5 people. Llewellyn's grandson, who also happens to share his name, King Henry III of England and his son and heir Edward I, and Simon de Montfort and his wife Eleanor of England. And one way or another, they are all related. For example, Eleanor, a really likable character, is sister to Henry and half-sister to Joanna, and the story covers from the time when she's around 15 to when she's in her early 50s. So we cover a lot of events as the story progresses. We see how Llewellyn's namesake and grandson inherits his dream and passion for a unified, strong Wales. We see just how apt are Henry III and Edward I as rulers and leaders. But in the end, we follow most closely the story of Simon de Montfort. He's a French nobleman who becomes brother-in-law to King Henry, but as the years go by, Simon grows ill at ease with Henry because the latter is not that good of a ruler, and so many things lead Simon to rebel in a way against Henry, seeking to increase the power of the people so that they can have a say on what goes on in their lives. In a way, these are the early stages for what would later become the constitutional monarchy that England is today. I'm not going to say what happens with Simon and his dreams of a better England though, since I don't want to spoil it for those who do not know what was this man's fate, impact, and legacy. Okay, so I love this book, but I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars review because I actually loved way more the book that came before in this trilogy, Here Be Dragons. But in the end, Falls the Shadow is fantastic for me too because I am a lover of historical novels, I am a royalist, I am an Anglophile, I'm a history lover, and it still served to teach me a lot about history that I didn't know. And in a way, the Welsh Prince trilogy is proving to be a time machine that takes me back to a time and place that I wasn't aware had taken place, and a fascinating one at that. And yeah, I mean, I'd never heard of Simon de Montfort. I don't knew that much about Henry III, and all I knew about Edward I was that he was Edward Longshanks, the king from the movie Braveheart. So while I did like learning about all of these people, as well as of Eleanor of England, Simon's wife, what I loved the most was catching up with the characters I'd fall for in Here Be Dragons. Even if it was quite sad at times to see what was happening to Llewellyn, to Joanna, to their children, and to Llewellyn's grandson and namesake. But in the end, yeah, Falls the Shadow is a very enjoyable read, a vivid tapestry of historical fiction. I enjoyed it. I am in awe with author Sharon Kay Penman for it. But yes, again, I have to go back to Here Be Dragons. Why do I love it more than this one? For 2 reasons. The first would be that despite the fact that I am a history lover, I am also a big romantic. And in Here Be Dragons, we get this sweeping, fantastic, romantic story that really made me feel connected to the protagonists, because we followed them closely enough through all the ups and downs of their marriage. But in Falls the Shadow, I found more politics and romance. And sure, the marriage between Simon and Eleanor was beautiful and wonderful, but the thing is that it's shown to be way too perfect to be true. I don't know how historically accurate this portrayal of their marriage is, but that's not what bothered me. What actually bothered me the most is the fact that I didn't feel as emotionally connected to them, because we'd never really see Simon and Eleanor fight. I mean, it's just all too sugar-coated, and at times it was even a bit too much for me, and I'm a sucker for corny stuff, so yeah. And well, the only thing I can learn from this is that I enjoy my historical fiction romances to be complicated, and Simon and Eleanor's was not. And while that may be a really good thing in real life to have an uncomplicated marriage, in the end, when it comes to reading experiences, I prefer marital drama. But that's just me and my experience and my opinion. But also, the other thing that makes me love Here Be Dragons more than Falls the Shadow is that Penman, the author, confessed that when she first started writing Falls the Shadow, she wanted it to be a book about Llewellyn and Simon's lives, but like halfway through she decided to concentrate on Simon's life in Falls the Shadow and then concentrate on Llewellyn's life in The Reckoning, the last book, and I understand why she would do that as a reader and as an aspiring writer. But it was a bit odd when I first started stumbling upon proof of this decision as I was reading, because at the start of the book I'm really enjoying learning about Llewellyn's early years, but then he disappears from the scene and we focus only on Simon, so I missed a lot of the parts centered on Wales. But yeah, in the end, Falls the Shadow, it made me laugh, it made me cry, and I couldn't put it down even in the parts where I was missing just how personal Here Be Dragons felt. Whereas in Falls the Shadow, it seemed at times more like a history lesson, though an entertaining one. But yeah, it was just like Penman was telling us rather than showing us what was going on politically. Back in the fall of 2016, I first read The Sun in Splendor, which is Sharon Kay Penman's most famous work, and I totally fell in love with it. So I'm sure that the first time that I must have become aware of Here Be Dragons must have been when I researched the author's other books. But even though I am an Anglophile and a royalist who loves the British royal family, I'm more familiarized with the most recent monarchs, from Queen Victoria onwards. So, because Here Be Dragons dealt with kings from the Middle Ages that I didn't really know that much about, I'm certain that must have been the reason why I didn't really pay that much attention to this trilogy. Which reminds me that back in 2014 I actually went to Wales for a day, and it's so frustrating now to think that I was there at the place where this trilogy took place, and I didn't really appreciate it because I didn't know anything of its history. So yeah, I really want to go there again so that I can really take in what a beautiful, vast heritage the Welsh have. But yes, anyways, the reason why I finally decided to give this trilogy a try was because someone recommended it to me after watching my review of The Sun in Splendor here on YouTube, and she highly praised Here Be Dragons and encouraged me to read it. So I checked it out again, and I now thought the plot sounded more intriguing. I read some reviews and they all praised it as being really good. And in the end, I read the first couple of pages, and just with that quick sample, I knew that this was gonna be a book that I really loved. Why? Because I seem to have a tendency for falling for novels that deal with English monarchs, or in this case a Welsh prince, that begin with them being boys out on their own, having this adventure in a forest. For example, Here Be Dragons, The Sun in Splendor, and Once and Future King by T.H. White, my third favorite book ever, which deals with the life of King Arthur. But yeah, those are the reasons why I finally decided to give the Welsh Prince trilogy a try. Anyways, next week I'm going to be reviewing the last book of this trilogy, The Reckoning. But I've read some reviews of it and it says that it's going to be a real tearjerker, so I am prepared for that. Anyways, for the moment I believe that this is all I have to say for this video. Thanks so much for watching my review of Falls the Shadow. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you did, but please let me know what you thought of it, as well as what are your own thoughts on this book. In the description box below you can find a link to the Goodreads page for Falls the Shadow, as well as a link to my reviews for Here Be Dragons and next week for The Reckoning. But yeah, anyways, I'm Caro Herrera, the Mental Traveler, and I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you're in the world. I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye!